Hi guys, it's Andy from Nismotech UK. We're giving a special overview for Reeven. Reeven are based in Taiwan. The products that you see here in front of you aren't at the moment available here in the UK. So we're demonstrating their products in the hope that we can find a distributor or an online retailer that might potentially look to stock these items as well as the other items from their product range. So in front of us we do have a couple of CPU coolers as well as a fan controller. And the product that we're looking at today is this Reeven Hands CPU cooler. Okay, so let's start with the actual front of the box. We've got the Reeven branding up at the top here, and obviously it's the Hands RC-1205 CPU cooler that we're looking at. Down at the bottom it mentions some of the compatibility, LGA 775, 1150, 1155, 1156, 1366 and 2011 for the Intel, and then AMD you've got AM2 and AM2 Plus, AM3 and AM3 Plus, FM1 and FM2, and obviously compatible with i3, i5 and i7 and LGA 1150 ready. And the other thing that we also have on here is obviously an image of the actual CPU cooler itself. Moving on to this side, again a couple of images of the actual cooler itself. It features some of the specification here. It's got unique fan clip design for easy fan mounting, unique embossed fin design for optimized airflow through the actual heatsink, and it uses 4 100% quality controlled heat pipes that's 6mm in thickness. Compact design, easy installation, advanced clearance heat pipe layout for the maximum heat transfer, and it's equipped with a Reeven original cold wing 12 fan, which is 120mm PWM fan. Onto this side of the actual packaging, we have information with regards to the actual socket clip that is available. It's for an Intel and AMD, it's an all-in-one adapter. And I'll see information about the socket compatibility. Onto this side of the box, I'll see it gives information about the actual dimensions of the unit: 155mm in height, 80mm in width. The fan is obviously 125mm going across. And obviously it just demonstrates the airflow through the actual cooler. And on this side we have information in foreign different languages, etc. Obviously the dimensions that we've already covered. The fan dimensions, fan speed is 500 RPM up to 1500 RPM, and the airflow is 27.61 up to 82.13 CFM. Noise level ranges from 4.3 dBA up to 29.8 dBA. Okay, so let's look inside the box. Lift it up. So we've got some nice protective padding there. We'll just lift the actual CPU cooler out, and we'll just plonk that down there a moment. And have a look and see what else is inside the box. Just pop that down over there a moment. And inside this box here we should have the screws, the adapter plate, and also, by the looks of it, an instruction manual, which is also going to tell you how to actually go about installing the CPU cooler to various different sockets. So make sure that you have a good read of that. Okay, so let's now have a look and see what else we get inside. I see this is the all-in-one bracket for Intel and AMD. It's made from metal. So we'll look at that in a moment. Obviously we've got the Reeven branding on the actual plate that goes right across the actual middle of the actual CPU cooler to screw the actual device down. The back plate, or the top plate I should say, for the actual cooler. Set of screws, thumb screws, etc. that you're going to need to install. And obviously some spacers, protective pad by the looks of things, and some thermal paste in there as well. So let's pop that to one side and take a closer look at the actual cooler. Now for the time being I'm just going to place it on top of this protective pad here. So let's start by having a look at the top of the actual heatsink. So we've got Reeven sort of engraved, embossed into here. We've got a couple of what looks to be special features with the actual fin design, etc. Also where the 4 heat pipe goes from the bottom to the top. Moving it around to the side, also you can see there's a large amount of fins. I'm not quite sure as to how many are actually on here, but it does appear, looking at it, that you can install an additional fan on this side, even though they don't supply any clips for this, but you could potentially get some additional clips and put that on the other side so you can use this in push-pull configuration. The fan itself looks quite nice. I see yellow blades on there, a standard 120mm fan. With a braided cable, which is really nice to see, and a 4-pin PWM cable. Now looking at the bottom, also we've got the 4 heat pipes that run all the way around. Also we've got the protective layer on here. So I'm just going to quickly remove that. And as you can see, it's very shiny base plate on there. So there we go. Looks very good indeed. So let's just have a closer look. Okay, so just to show you essentially how you would actually install the CPU cooler into the actual system, onto a motherboard. You grab one of these pins. Obviously this is the motherboard, the back end of the motherboard, so you just basically push that through. The motherboard would then go on top of there. You then have these plastic spacers that go on top, followed by the actual top mounting bracket. So you do that on all 4, and then obviously you're faced with that literally on top of the actual motherboard. Okay, so essentially this is what the actual brackets will look like. Obviously there'll be a motherboard in between this, in between the bottom plate and this here. So you know, it's just a rough idea. The other thing I want to show you is that you do get this sort of little spanner included as well, which you can then use to actually tighten the actual nuts up, which is quite nice. Quite like the look of that. So this is a sort of a standard Intel setup. So with the actual cooler itself, I'm just going to show it from this way. One thing that I do want to point out, you can hopefully see these sort of little notches, nodules in the actual middle of the heatsink. Now this is quite nice. On the actual plate that goes across, hopefully you'll be able to see, but you literally knock it down into the actual ridges. Let's see if I can show you down on that side. So that's quite nice. It keeps it nice and firm, nice and actually in place, which is really good. So essentially you would then go along, stick that down on top, also screw it down on that side, remove the fan, and screw the other side down on there as well, and essentially that is your CPU installed. Now I actually think that looks really quite good with the yellow blades on the actual fan itself. Obviously the airflow is going to be coming directly over the top to the actual back. So there's quite a lot of airflow coming from there. It does look really quite good actually. So I'm very impressed with the actual performance of the fan. It does seem like it's going to move a lot of heat through the actual heatsink itself. So there we go. Okay, so on to my overall thoughts for the Reeven Hans RC-1205 CPU cooler. It's great to see that the Hans CPU cooler does support the majority of Intel and AMD sockets, and is also Haswell ready. I also like the addition of the universal socket clip to enable you to have one socket, one bracket for Intel and AMD. It's quite a nice feature to have that in the box. The fan connected to the heatsink itself, the Reeven original Cold Wing 12 fan, the 120mm PWM fan, looks really good. I love the yellow blade, especially when the actual fan itself is going around. It does seem to perform reasonably quite well with the specification and the actual feel of the airflow that's running through the actual heatsink. Looks really good. As always, it's always nice to see a braided cable, so that's a real good plus point as well, especially from a brand like Reeven that are very much unknown here in the UK. I would imagine that this type of CPU cooler is going to go into a system that isn't really aggressively overclocked. This is more to replace your stock CPU cooler, just to give it a little bit more additional cooling across the actual CPU to help keep the temperatures down that little bit more. But as I say, if you are looking to overclock your system, I would probably recommend looking at a different cooler, because I don't think that this one's quite going to be quite man enough for it. But saying that, we will be obviously testing the actual cooler itself in our new test bench, so make sure you keep an eye out for that video and obviously for the actual results of that test. But overall, the cooler itself, it looks really good. Really like the look of it. Again, as I've already mentioned before, the addition of the yellow bladed fan definitely makes it stand out. So a big thumbs up to Reeven. Thank you very much for sending this along for us to look at, and we'll see you in our next video. We hoped you liked our video review. If you did, then please leave a like, as well as any comments or questions you may have down below. Full details and specifications on this item can be found at our website, nismotech.com, along with all the links for purchasing if you wish. Also on our site you'll find our latest reviews and current giveaways, plus a lot more. We look forward to seeing you in our next review.